Hi, welcome to the Math Together show where thoughtful educators gather and learn together. I am Dr. Sue Looney.
I'm Molly Vokey.
And I'm Heidi Subdani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it.
We need to pause and acknowledge what is happening in our country right now. And we had a lot of conversation, as I'm sure many of you did as well today, and we chose to go forward. We're super excited about what it is that we have to share this evening, but we do want to acknowledge that there's certainly been an attack on our democracy that's very upsetting. We've had one person lose their life this evening, and we're concerned and disturbed about what's happening in the US, and we don't want to turn a blind ear and be deaf to what's going on. But we felt that it was important to go forward, and we know that many people don't watch this show live, but watch this back in the recording, and so we are super excited, but we did each want to acknowledge what was happening.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we think of everybody who is in the Washington, D.C. area, and just pray that there is safety as people navigate the streets and try to get to a safe place.
Yeah, so for many of us, I think the conversations today that we have with our own children, with the students that we work with in our classrooms, that we will be interacting with in the next couple of days, the last 6 to 8 months have been particularly eye-opening, I think, for some people in inequities and in injustice, and in many ways, things that threaten the democracy that many of us hold dear. And for me, as a first-generation American, when we consider, sometimes people will say, well, this is not happening in our country. And I think it is happening now. And I think we have to have those conversations with our students, both in the math classroom and without, how we do that and how we are truthfully providing opportunities to listen to the students that we have in our classrooms, to be opportunities for them to share what they're thinking and seeing in these moments as well, I think is really critical. And we want to just acknowledge that these are really difficult times for so many people, with the pandemic that is happening, with people losing their lives there, and then seeing these threats. And I think for some people this comes as a surprise, and for others we may have seen this coming. And we just want to acknowledge that and know, educators, we play a really big role in bringing truth to our students, to allowing students to have the opportunity to share and to have a safe space within our classrooms. And we want to know, for you to know as educators, that we see you doing this work and support you in that. So we thank you for allowing us this little moment to acknowledge that. And we want to, also bring you to our show because we are so excited about the educator we're going to be speaking with today. And she's been such a help to us, and we hope that she will be a help to you also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're gonna shift gears and get right into it. And we are super excited and have been excited since we were able to book Dr. Theresa Wills to be with us. And she's going to work with us to answer this key question. How do you ensure engagement and participation from all students, even ones who don't use the microphone or camera? So we're going to be taking on that issue of working with students at a distance in remote settings. So we're very excited. Before we do that, we're going to jump into some announcements.
Yes. Please, if you're watching, say hello, hit like. We love to have questions. So please chime in on the conversation at any time. Launch?
Yes.
Yep. So we are opening our doors to the Math Together learning community. So we open our doors just twice a year. And so there's just a really short window for this to happen again in January here. And so we're open starting today, and we're taking new members through the 16th. And we hope you'll check that out. And the way that you can join is this website here, mathtogether.looneymath.com. And we are just really excited about that opportunity. The first month is free. So if you have questions about it, definitely check that link out and shoot us a message. To celebrate all that, we've got 5 days of giveaways. And so every other day, we're just giving away prizes. These are not to people who sign up. This is anyone who cares to check us out and see what's going on, and just to sort of spread the love as we run into this crazy year of 2021. And so we've had our first giveaway today. To be honest, we've had almost 200 people already enter, which is really exciting. So the first one I am really happy about, because we are raffling off an autographed copy of my story, Ying and the Magic Turtle, with a visit for me to come to your class and either read, not come in person, but to read a chapter or do a problem-solving lesson. And anybody who enters that raffle will receive a freebie. So you will, by entering the raffle, be sent a problem-solving task that I call a Puzzleoons. And so you'll get your Puzzleoons and then be entered into that raffle. And then you can be watching for the next raffle. So that one will close and the next one will come, and we'll continue the celebrating as we think about having people come on in. And in addition, our guest today, Theresa, is raffling a copy of her book as well as 5 problem-solving stickers. So in order to get entered into that raffle, you can do that right now while watching. And so we need you to join the conversation. There it is.
Great book. So good.
So you're going to want a copy of this whether you win it or not. My daughter's a teacher, and I just ordered her own copy today. So if you comment, if you tell us where you're from, if you say, yes, I agree, or you say, yes, I want in on the raffle, if you participate in the comments, whether watching live or later, that will automatically enter you into the raffle for the copy of that book and the stickers that go with it. So that was a lot coming at you to begin with, and we really just want to get our guests in here. We can see her backstage. So Molly, you get to do the honors.
Yes, let me do that. Dr. Theresa Wills is the author of Teaching Math from a Distance, K-12, a practical guide to rich remote instruction. She is an assistant professor of mathematics education in the School of Education at George Mason University, where she works with in-service mathematics specialists and pre-service elementary and secondary teachers. Theresa has taught synchronous online classes and webinars since 2010, and researches teaching practices that are adaptable to the online environment. She is a former classroom teacher and a math coach who still volunteers weekly in K-12 classrooms. So let's bring in Theresa.
Yay!
Yay!
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for coming. I have to say that I credit you for me being able to do my job this year. Mm-hmm. And so we work in professional development. And when we abruptly ended Life as We Knew It on March 13th, we met. And I said, we cannot just do pre-recorded webinars. We need to engage. That's what we do. We're teachers. And we spent several months trying to figure it out. And it was watching your freely available things on your YouTube channel. That was where I started. And I think maybe Heidi, you stumbled upon Theresa's stuff on Twitter, but you saved us personally. And so it is truly so awesome to be able to bring you on our show. Thank you so much for coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was something that I was telling some of the teachers we were working with today. You know, I know when all of this began, there were some people who put out things that, you know, this is the way to do it, but hadn't really done online teaching before, and we hadn't either. And so we're trying to help teachers. And then when I found your things and then later your book, something like, Theresa's actually done it for 10 years. She does know what she's talking about. Yeah. Versus, you know, right. all of the rest of like, okay, we're figuring it out as we go. We're trying and adjusting and making changes as we go through. But knowing that there was someone with actual experience in the classroom and who'd been doing this for a long, you know, for 10 years, that's significant. And I think we you know, feel it's really important to look at this time in this space. And then also that it's not, what struck me by what you're talking about here is really about good pedagogy that you are then adapting online. So it's not so much about the tech piece of it. it's about using good pedagogy and making good decisions around how you engage students in that, that really sold me on everything that you were providing in this space.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we like to jump in with asking our guests their why. So why are you in education? Why do you do what you do today? What is your thoughts around what is your why?
Yeah. So why am I in education? I kind of think this answer might be something that many of you all feel. I can't imagine not being in education. It is what I was born to do. I really love education. But this right now that most people are experiencing has been my normal for the past decade. It was my normal by choice. And I had the time to slowly dip my toe into the water, get a feel for it before I went over into the deep end. And I had the opportunity to, take a face-to-face class and an online class that were taught one after another and make sure that they were as similar as possible without changing the pedagogies, without changing the outcomes, and without being, just the teller of knowledge, still keeping it exploratory. And so, yeah, the why, this is my normal. And I definitely feel during this time that it's a bit of a responsibility. I would expect the same from any other educator if we are in a situation where, they've had experience teaching that way, that it's shared. That's what educators do. It's what we've always done. We share information, share ideas, and we support each other.
So that's interesting that you think of it in that way as a social responsibility, because I was working with teachers today and we were looking at your templates, and if anyone has ever gone to her templates page on her website, it's quite extensive and there's something for everyone there, if not many things for everyone there. And one of the teachers said, "She's giving this away all for free?" I said, "I know. She's been doing this for 10 years. It's amazing."
Yeah. Totally saving us all. Just amazing. So I think we'll jump into our key question.
Yeah, and I think this was a great key question to kind of consider this. How do we ensure engagement and participation from all students, even the ones who don't use their microphone or camera? And I know that has been a challenge for me on the professional development end of things. I hear teachers sometimes complain about students not turning their cameras or microphones on. And then we go to do PD and sometimes that same behavior is continued. And so I've tried to really step back and not take it personally and realize there are other ways that we can have communication. But how are we ensuring that? And how do we make sure that we're providing engagement and participation?
Yeah. So, I talk about doing this work for the past 10 years, and I'll tell you, up until around March of 2020, I think I maybe have used my camera a total of 10 times. I just didn't even have a computer with one on when I first started. And, other times it was, we have it, but the bandwidth gets really messy, especially if it's raining outside, raining hard. And so it just wasn't really needed or there. Now, why isn't it needed? Because, we do like people's facial expressions. But one of the major reasons is because of the student-centered content is what's on the screen, not for them to watch, but for them to interact with. And so when your real estate is this student-centered interaction, this collaboration space, that's what you want to see. And so really quickly, you get to know all your friends' voices. You get to know, how they're feeling just by their voice. And it's really funny because, if I'll be working with someone for a year and then actually see them face to face, I was like, I heard your voice down the hall. I knew it was you before I was able to see you. So yeah, but how do you get there when you're so used to seeing the other person face to face? And I think that the most important thing is keeping that pedagogy first in the forefront. So that pedagogy for me is things that are student-led, things that have rich questions, and the students are the ones investigating and thinking about it. And it's about the students creating the slideshow versus the teacher having all of the mathematics ready for you in this nicely little wrapped slideshow. And so my classes typically look like Google Slides on everyone's screen. So that's typically what they see. And they start to interact with it. We might have a math task on there, and I put students into different breakout rooms, and then they start adding things to their slides. Maybe they found clip art of jelly beans because we're working on a ratios problem about jelly beans. They bring it down to their slide. Someone else has done something on paper and pencil, so they take their notebook and they hold it up to the screen. You'll see my notes for today, and they'll let other people read directly off of their camera. Others will upload a snapshot. Still further, people will work with virtual manipulatives and take screenshots and bring them on. What this is, what you're hearing, might sound like a lot of techie things. But what it really is keeping the mathematics something that is investigative and student-centered. So in all those things that I just mentioned there wasn't any of the teacher saying how to do it or the teacher modeling how to do it. It was, here's a problem and here's a sandbox space that starts blank. And when it finishes, it has many slides because the students needed more space and they had the agency to add them. And they're bringing all of their knowledge on the screen. And that means the teacher's job is to go around and decide, who am I going to ask to present? What is the little nugget of information here? And since it's online, you can even copy and paste it before the students have finished it. So you get some real rough draft thinking. You can copy it, save it for later, and say, hey, let's look at this strategy that was started up. So how do you do that without the camera and microphone? You make it so that your real estate space on your screen is more important than seeing face-to-face. And then you find your balance, what works personally for you and your students. That way they have that. So that's the main part. We have pedagogy in the forefront. Mm-hmm. But then we also can look at what are other ways students can have a voice and communicate. I see we have a chat box here. In my class, there are frequently emojis in it. And I know it sounds so simple and little, but kids of all ages, whether they are in preschool or they have been teaching for 40 years, they love emojis. Mm-hmm. Some conferences, teleconferencing software have pre-made ones. We go back to the retro, using the colon and the parenthesis. And kiddos find these really funny ones and they can express themselves. That's their technology identity emerging. And I never, ever want to stop that. So if you're someone who prefers to get your ideas down with the typing first, maybe you're someone who just wants to show that agreeing symbol through an emoji of a smiley face once every minute if you want. Maybe you're someone who wants to talk. Maybe you're someone who wants to be paired up first. Talk it out with a buddy. Come back, and maybe you're still a little nervous to use the mic. So then as a teacher, I do things to build their confidence. Like, hey, did anyone's partner say something really neat about this problem? Who can share what their partner said? So it's building their confidence because the student isn't anymore worried about what if everyone agrees with me, but hey, I get to say what my partner said, it's not my words. And so it becomes more comfortable. They're all rooted in pedagogy. They're all rooted in things that our teachers do in the face-to-face classroom with routines before starting breakout rooms and routines for, do we raise our hand before we share? Do we turn to our partner and talk? What is the protocol and routine? And it's the same thing online. We have some different lenses that we look through, but it's keeping the pedagogy in the front, keeping it so it's student-led. They're the ones typing, clicking, moving, making sense of things. And eventually you as the teacher are the facilitator, you're the watcher, you're monitoring what they're doing and finding those little nuggets of awesome math and bringing them out.
What I hear so much of as you're speaking, first of all, is this calmness, and that is so great and reassuring. Like, they just go on and they do this, and we remain calm, and we handle situations as they arise. But I hear so much about the student agency piece. So we start with the pedagogy and also with the mathematics. We choose a task that's rich. and worthy of interest. But I want to dig a little deeper around this idea of student agency. So you started referencing many things about how students build their identity online and their agency. And I think that's going to be reassuring to our listeners, because I think that's what we're afraid of, is that we can't have those authentic moments online. I need you in front of me. So maybe we can pick up on that thread of student agency a little bit, because I know you write about it quite a bit.
Absolutely. So when we think about our identity as math people, that's something that I think is popular enough that probably people are nodding their heads. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I know what my identity is. I think I want my students to have a good math identity. But we don't often talk about the technology identity. Things like, how are you represented on the screen? Do I have to, spend a while doing hair, makeup, dressing right? Do I need to be nervous about my background, or can I just put up a fun cartoony emoji of me that I've selected that represents me, and now I can kind of relax a little more? Now, that's just me personally. That's what I like. I like to put up an image, by the way, that I select. It's going to be goofy. I have a lot of goofy photos. I like to put those up, and I don't like the professional ones. So having the agency to be able to express yourself in those ways is one of the first ways we build confidence with our students. And it's such a simple way. We can learn so much about kids when they are uploading pictures of their favorite pet, pictures of them with the trophy that they got from their gymnastics. We can learn so much, and it doesn't have to be live camera. The other thing is the idea of these shared collaborative spaces.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Google Slides, and the reason why is because from all over, 4 kids can be on the same slide. They can be uploading clip art, text, images, anything they want, and they can show their thinking on that whiteboard or that sandbox, that space. But the first thing you need to do is give your students editing rights to that slideshow. And that can make us feel really nervous inside, right? Like, goodness, am I going to really release control to my students?
Right.
But I think the lessons that I've learned come out from a high school teacher who taught behind the wheel in a driver's ed class, saying, we don't want them to graduate without this knowledge. We need to teach them in a structured and safe space. Well, I want the same thing in my students when they graduate. I want them to know how to be safe online, what to do if they're in an unsafe circumstance, and how to interact with people, realize you're wrong and say, I'm sorry, like how to do those skills. And that's really important to me. So yeah, anyone can edit the document. We have bloopers, we have mistakes, but that's the part I love. And I'll tell you why I love it. Because it's not like I'm worried about mistakes. It's not even that I expect mistakes. It's that I'm looking out for them. I want to see them and showcase them. So week 1, every kid learns how to make a mistake and hit Control Z. We keep practicing it. Oh, sorry, we didn't make enough mistakes today. Everyone make one here, hit Control Z. So they're empowered with how to undo it. And when I model this calmness with making mistakes, what I'm showing them how to do is the calmness, the perseverance, and the persistence that I want to see during productive struggle. So I'm modeling that every day. And if I don't have any mistakes to model, I can't show them how to, work through productive struggle.
Theresa, you've had 10 years to become this calm. Were you this calm in the beginning? Because I know a lot of very not calm people right now.
Yeah.
Fair question. I think back to my first year teaching face-to-face, and I was not calm. I was slightly manic. And, now coming back to this, I don't even think I was calm face-to-face until I had a really powerful teacher talk to me. She taught kindergarten and just kind of was like, well, you just got to come up with a routine for that. You got to predict it and make a routine. And she taught me to be calm. But the reason I'm calm online is, I think about what could happen here. I could lose all my slides, and we could have a windstorm and knock out all the internet. Okay, if I have that, what am I going to do? So I think about that situation, and I have kind of my protocol. And, if it happens, which it has, that exact thing has happened before, I'm able to send that email out to students right away. So I'm not spending my time worrying about what could happen. Much like as a first-year teacher, I was worried about snow and fire alarms. I was worried about, when the kids are walking down the hall and they're touching the artwork along it. I mean, there's plenty of things for me to worry about face-to-face. But we come up with predictable contingency plans, and that helps us to be calm.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on an analogy you open up your book with. And Heidi, you brought this up this morning. So I think that all this idea of permission to make mistake, and that it's important to make mistakes matter. But I also think teachers tend to, we tend to be a bit of the perfectionist type. We want to do a good job because we care so much. And so we think there's a right way to do things. And if I could just buy your book and you could show me, and then I'll practice and I'll just do it that way. But you use this analogy that we really love about math at a distance is like raising a child. And I think this relates to your question, Molly, about how do you remain calm. Can you explain that analogy for our listeners?
Absolutely. I didn't quite understand how different raising a child would be from teaching until having my first. And, he would eat every 3 hours around the clock. That was not in the baby books. He did not want to lay flat when he slept. Come on, they were told, lay the baby on the back in the crib. That's not how my baby slept. How am I ever going to get any sleep? And then goodness came to eating the solids. No, my baby was not like the one in the book. And then let's get to potty training, and then stopping potty training, and then doing it again, and then stopping and doing it again, because he never fit any of those things in the book. But what I started to realize, so I have 2 kiddos, they're 17 months apart. And my second kiddo, by the way, is nothing like my first. In every way, she does not meet any of the requirements of the books, but she's the complete opposite. That's exactly what teaching is. And it's exactly what teaching at a distance is. So instead of opening a book and saying, I have to fit this mold, realize that your baby is not going to be like any of those baby books. However, they might have some really good tidbits of information. And if you start to collect those, so this baby started solids at 4 months. Neat. This one started at 6. This one waited for a year. This one started with rice. This one started with avocados. Okay, these are things that do work for people. Now, what am I going to use for me? I'm going to take a little of this spice, a little of this one, a little of this one. I'm going to put it together in my own recipe. And now this is the way I raise a baby, or the way I teach online. So instead of being so nervous about, am I doing it the right way? Am I following the baby book? Am I following the online teaching book? Instead, fill yourself with knowledge of things that work. And then ask yourself, is this going to work for me? Is this something I want to spend my time pursuing? Or is there something else that is getting my interest that I think will work for me? And start with the easy stuff. Get that low-hanging fruit and practice those ones and see what works for you. I know for me, whether it's raising a child or teaching online, when I have those little mini successes, it motivates me to try other things. And so then I try a little more difficult things, and then maybe I'll come back to something I'm a little more comfortable with. And I think that's human nature, whether you're raising a baby or you're teaching. It's not about following this recipe. It's learning to cook and put your own spices in and making something yourself.
That's what I thought was kind of the nature of your book. It's a practical guide, but it is more about you sharing experiences of other people versus you saying, do this. And I kind of was expecting it to tell me what to do, and it didn't. And I'm like, wait a minute, so how do I do that? And then I read on and I listen to this person's story, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that. Yeah. I like it.
And one thing you talked about too is the low-hanging fruit. I like how as you walk through the activities, you describe, is this a beginning activity, an intermediate, and an advanced? That I might not have gotten the language exactly correct. But when you say pick the low-hanging fruit, I can go in here, I can hear something like ooh, same but different. And then I can look, is that a beginning strategy? And then I might do that one, right? They're laughing at me. So,
why would you
but
pick
that was so helpful to me, because I was like, a math person wrote this book. You're speaking my language. Like, actually, the instructions are there with the vignette, and you've classified everything so I can see advanced. And then I go, whoa, like, I'm not ready for that, but I'm going to start here.
Yeah, we have some people who have chimed into the conversation here. Kim from Quincy is saying that Theresa was a lifesaver when they were coming back to school this year. And then Colette is also saying she loves your Mather days and that they were really, really super helpful. So we're so happy to have people chiming in and giving Theresa the compliments that she deserves. So well, we should probably get to our last question, right?
Right, exactly.
Right. So, Theresa, what are you working on now, and how can people learn more about what you do?
So the things that I'm working on right now are getting very practical examples of math routines and rich tasks out to teachers. A question I frequently get is, yeah, I like to do a math routine at the beginning of class, but then it gets a little predictable. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that means your routine's working, but maybe you want some other ones too. And so I've been out there searching, and I find lots of wonderful routines that other people have already structured together. I'll say, hey, this is where it comes from. Now, here's the lens for how to do it online. You want your students to talk first, a pair share? Well, then you do breakout rooms with 2 kiddos in for only 2 minutes, because you want them to talk and get it out and then come right back. You want, let's say, estimation. You want students to estimate something that's too low, something that's too high, and then that nice estimate of how many are really there. But I want to see every single student. So I make sure that all 30 of my students have a place to type on that slide. So I can see 30 too low estimates, 30 too high. So it's the same routine. It's just done online. And I talk about the little tiny scaffolds and structures that you can use to give students a voice and not just be someone who's talking to the students, but instead, facilitating, asking a question, and then they're coming in and showing their knowledge.
I almost can I interrupt for 1 second? Because I was thinking today that I almost think that some of the templates that you have are actually providing more voice than if people were in person, because when you're in a classroom, you can only call in one person at a time. You can have them talk to each other and they have their voice and blah, 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 which is wonderful and amazing. But in the online setting, your templates allow every kid to talk at the same time. There's no wasted time. All kids can, and they're not talking, they're typing or they're picturing or, whatever. But I almost think there might be more voice in the structure that you've created.
In my classes, that's exactly what I find. As I mentioned before, I frequently teach 2 classes, well, not since March, but 2 classes of the exact same content, one right after the other. So I don't have any time to change it, one online, one face-to-face. And in doing that, it really makes me stay true to the pedagogy. But I find exactly what you're saying. When there's a space for every kid to have their voice heard, it does mimic when they all hold up the little personal whiteboard, but it does something more. It gives a saved space of all their answers. I can take a screenshot of their rough draft thinking before they really finished. And I can do so much more. So that's a great place to get to, whether you are at the very beginning or you've had a lot of experience and you're seeing that indeed, yes, you get more student voice. You hear from more students. No one hides in your class. They are, right there in the forefront.
And I think that's, that key piece of how we translate that. There are some benefits to remote versus in person. And it's that idea, like I'm thinking particularly like in high school, like middle and high school classes, where sometimes students' math identities may be less than positive. And so it's that idea of like, I can just kind of slide into the background, and if I'm quiet and I act like I'm working, and I can just kind of, be invisible to the class and the teacher. But in this space, it's really okay. Like I'm expecting to see from everyone, similar to that individual whiteboard, but we often get away from that. I find sometimes in person when we're in middle schools and high school, like, oh, well, that's like a younger, we tend to have that mindset a little bit, but in this space, it really is allowing and promoting and showing that you as the teacher value that student voice and input. And are not just looking for one. So like if I'm expecting all, if I'm providing space for all, then I really value what you're saying versus just highlighting one or two things. And it could be done more anonymously as well. Like
there's a lot of anonymity you can put in these. Yes.
Yeah. That, you know, that someone may never have said out loud, but I can highlight that thinking in a way that values that student's thoughts.
And those templates are all available on theresawills.com. You've got, we can go right in there, and it's a really well-designed website where you will be able to find those templates if you log on there. That's where we want to send them. Is that right, Theresa?
Yes, if you head there, there's a lot in there. I try and say pretty transparent. I've put up templates. You'll notice they're mostly blank, but they're structured. And that's because that's where the student voice goes, right? So you'll see templates, you'll see a lot of recordings. I record myself and put it up there in its raw blooper fold, mistake ready. So if you want to see what it's like when your instructor loses internet connection, but the video recording's still happening, there's a math for days on that one. If you want to see what happens when everyone's microphone goes off, there's one of that too. And so I try and keep it raw so that people can see, what do you do in that situation? And, not put the perfect stuff up because that might be a little intimidating. So yeah, there's those. There's even, if you're interested in doing a book study on my new book, there are chapter by chapter slides ready to go for you to teach synchronously the ideas in the book. And so I'm working on getting those for every chapter. The first 5 are up now. You can also find the link to join me for Mather Days. It's a fun time every Saturday at noon Eastern. I get together with a bunch of other fun math people.
I go.
And we do a rich task and a routine in a 1-hour format. You can see exactly what 1-hour math block might look like for grades K through Calc.
Yeah, I really encourage anyone listening that wants to see what this is like to join one of those days, because you will be the student in Theresa's class, and then you'll walk away with, now I feel like I've practiced it in a supportive place to go do with my students.
Okay, and you can watch after the fact too, which has been my way of doing it. But just watching and seeing, and again, like the calmness that is exhibited is very helpful, and knowing like, okay, this is all something that we're learning at and trying. And it's really amazing to see the amount of feedback and conversation that's happening without hearing and seeing all of that.
That's right.
I just have to do a little bit of a comment, because one of my 8th grade teachers from Quincy chimed in, and she said that Theresa's been a lifesaver for her. So Elise, I'm super proud of you doing this year. Yay. So excited.
Here we go. Awesome. So the book that we've been referencing, which looks like this. So we all have our...
I know, all of us are like such groupies over here.
So Theresa has generously offered to raffle. So definitely you can check that out. It is on Amazon, but I like to support the publishers directly. So if you go directly to Corwin and you go to new releases, you can find it there. But if you're in a rush and want it delivered quick, it is also on Amazon. My daughter actually does not teach mathematics, and I'm buying her this book. So this extends beyond mathematics. This is routines of how to make connections in an authentic way where students are treated with respect and equity and agency. And how can we do that? And so this is a gift. This is a gift beyond the math classroom.
Totally.
So I don't know if you have any final words. I feel like you've done an amazing job of rising to an occasion where you felt you had to share what you knew, but you really didn't you really did not have to, and so we appreciate that you did. And we're so glad that you graced our show by coming this evening. So
yes,
I don't know if anyone has any final words before we wrap things up.
I just want to say thanks for having me. Thanks for inspiring me many years ago. And to everyone out there, you know, make mistakes. Don't put on a perfect lesson, because when you do those, you get more practice with it. You learn to be more calm when it happens, even when you purposely put it in there just to practice your calmness. And most importantly, you're teaching kids the skills for productive struggle. And we have an opportunity right now, like we've never had before, to you know, be able to teach them this is how one operates when you make a mistake. We don't storm off. We don't quit. Right. We persevere. We work hard. We like this challenge, and we have a great opportunity to model that.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here, and we're gonna, you know, definitely keep in touch and stay on top of what you're up to, and we're gonna continue to be a cheerleader. We're cheering you on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you're welcome. Take good care. So we are going to hang here with a few announcements. Whoa, change of faces here. Let's fix that. That was fantastic. So if you are new to Theresa, I mean, definitely check those resources. I will go in and put those into the Facebook comments after the show, so you can directly link to those.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I love is, you know, in some cases, these are routines and experiences that you've had in a face-to-face environment. And Theresa's just really there helping and providing that structure for, okay, how do I do this in a virtual space? And I think that's such a critical bridge to help us. Okay, like, I know this is good pedagogy. I know this works for my students in a face-to-face environment. How do I replicate that in a either hybrid or in a online setting? And I think that's just such a critical thing for us, because we're all taking a crash course.
Totally.
We are in real time. So we thank you for being here. We encourage you to check out the Math Together Learning community, and we follow up on these conversations in that community. So we will check out the book study that Theresa has posted on her website, and we will run events to practice doing these slides together. And so we encourage you to check that out. And again, it's only open until January 16th. So definitely check that out. Remember that we're celebrating. And so you can look for giveaways. And the way to do that is to hop on the mailing list or check out on social media. So we'll be tweeting out each day that a giveaway comes about. And that first one was Ying. So we'll put all those links into the comments for you. And so we're going to wrap it up here and just let you know about our next event.
We're so excited about next week. We have like the best January to start off the year. Thanks to Theresa, and now we get to move on next week on January 13th with Dan Meyer, and he is going to talk about how we develop student brilliance. So we're very excited about that conversation. So we hope that you can join us next week, and we're super glad that Theresa could be here with us.
All right, everybody, take care. Remember to always be kind and always be curious.
Night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.